All right, we will go ahead and get started here with the training webinar for today. One of the things that we were looking at covering this morning is being able to just go over some of the common questions that come in through the customer support. And just a variety of things do come in periodically. Just want to make sure I have access to my screen here. And so there's some really basic steps that are able to help you navigate through the Legion app. Right now I'm sitting on a homeowner, but the tapping on your arrow right here will take you back to the various different areas of the app. And if you look right here, this is in blue. That lets you know that you're in an organization. All of your territories are in orange. So being able to go back and forth, it should be able to let you know exactly where you're at within the app. So right now, one of the key things that I think we've had some issues with, that I've seen a lot of questions come back through and they can't quite figure out why it's not working the way they'd like it to, is just in creating an organization itself. Right now I could create an organization by tapping on these three dots right here, the More button. And when I tap on that, it gives me the availability of being able to edit the current organization, to create a new sub-organization or a new territory by selecting. Currently, our lasso tool right here does not work as it's intended to, so I would suggest at this point in time to be just using the selecting mode for creating a new territory. To be able to delete a territory right here is a way to delete a territory or an organization. Now, I want to just give you a word of caution, because this is probably something that we see more often than not. When you are deleting and you delete this territory, so if I were to tap on delete right here, you'll see a pop-up screen, and a lot of people don't read what's on that pop-up screen. We put it on there specifically so that people would be aware that, as it says, caution, you're about to delete a sub-organization. Access to any of the data within that organization will be lost, and users belonging to that organization will also lose access to the data. So if you accidentally delete it, you need to contact us as quickly as possible so that we can get it restored. It takes quite a bit of work to restore an organization. So if you are just trying to kind of look through this notification screen is definitely out there so that it gives you a second chance before you actually delete it. I don't want to delete this at this point in time, so I would not tap on delete. I would tap on cancel so that I don't actually delete that organization. One of the things.
Hey, Beth.
Yes, go ahead.
So that is the only way to get it back is by having to call support if it's been deleted, right?
That is correct. The only way to be able to pull that organization back in place, and we've had areas that have been worked for a couple of months that have several sub-organizations and several territories, and the only way to have that restored at this point in time is through the customer support. The software engineers have to actually go back in and reinstall all of that information. So like I say, it does take a fair amount of work to be able to recover that. So unless you're for sure absolutely done with an area, or in fact, really the only time that I would suggest deleting an organization is if you're just creating one and no work has been done in it. One of the other things that happens is that your users that are in that organization, it will just disappear for them. They'll have no idea why they're no longer able to access the information or the data that's in that organization or that territory. So yeah, that's at this point in time, that is the only way to recover it. And the other thing that you'll want to be aware of is that you'll just want to make sure, again, to contact customer support as quickly as possible, because the more time that goes on, sometimes things get changed within the app and it may change the data that was there, and so it makes it even more difficult to recover it. Did that cover your question? So we'll go ahead and go on. As we look at the area itself, I've got a sub-organization here called Phoenix. And again, if I'm tapping on these three dots right here, the More button, I have the availability of creating a suborg. And we have been asked quite oftentimes, what is the best way to create suborganizations? And one of the key things that you want to remember is that the structure of how you set up the suborganizations, everything that's within a suborganization of an organization needs to be, if you think about it as it's all set up in shapes. So for instance, I have this named Phoenix. But it's actually the entire state of Arizona. So a better name for this would be to rename this Arizona. So I want to do that right now. I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to tap on Edit, and it will actually allow me to change the name of the organization right here. So I'm going to change this by just tapping in that area, and I can type on my screen here. And I'm going to name it Beth's Arizona. Again, you're going to want to name these specifically to those who are working in that area so that it will be familiar to them. So I've just now changed the name of this organization to be named Beth, Arizona. Now, if I wanted to change the boundaries of it, I can tap on Add Boundaries, which was right here, and it's showing me the shape of Arizona. And it also shows me approximately how many homes are in there. So in order to be able to increase that shape, I would tap on the plus sign right here, and I would tap on zoom out if I wanted to increase the shape. And once you zoom out, it will show other states surrounding that you could add to that if you wanted to. So for instance, if I tapped on, actually I can tap anywhere in the state of Utah, and it will darken that shape, which lets me know that it's also has been added. If I don't want it anymore, all I have to do again in this area right here within that shape is tap it again, and now it's unselected. So that's one of the ways to be able to do it. The other way is actually tapping on the plus sign itself and tapping on select. And now it's selected again. The one word of caution when editing a organization is if you have, for instance, if you have an organization or a territory where it has been selected and then you have created additional territories within that, when you change the outside borders of the territory, for instance, if I chose to hang on just one second. If I chose to change the shape of this territory right here, and I already had this one right here, at this point in time, it wouldn't be that much of an issue. When you get into territories themselves, so we're going to finish this now that I've named it Arizona, and I don't want to have Utah be included with that. It's easier to keep track of your organizations if you actually name them by state. So I would want to create a separate sub-organization called Utah and create it that way. So I'm going to say that I am done. So I'm going to tap on Finish down here. I would at this point in time have the availability of adding new owners or managers or members at this point in the process, but I'm not going to right now. I'm going to tap on Finish. And this is a message that has shown up periodically that we're working on fixing. So if you get a message that shows up that's not one that you have seen before, so it's saying the organization needs a boundary, please add a boundary to the new organization. Right now, a workaround for that is that you're able to go into your boundaries right here and tap on the word boundaries itself. And now I'm going to add boundaries. Because if you look, what it actually did is it removed my shape of Arizona. So when I tap on it, it is now back. So when I go back to finish here, there's my territory. Now I'm going to go into the Phoenix suborg right there. And as I'm in the Phoenix suborg, I have this territory listed again. Phoenix in blue means this is a suborg. Homes are not able to be seen within organizations only within territories. So as you go to the Phoenix territory, I'm going to tap on that. It will bring up that Phoenix territory. Now, a couple of other things that we have seen that have been an issue for people is they will be further out and they will not see any circles. This one has been loaded already, and so you're going to see some circles, but all you need to do is just in this area, you just want to zoom in by using the pinch and expanding that area. And the more you expand, the more homes that will load. So you're able to see the different streets. Now, I am not in the Phoenix area right now. If I were, I would see a blue dot wherever I'm located at that would show where I am in connection to these homes. And the homes, they have just changed one of the features on, or added a new feature to the app, and that is that the homes will be displayed here on your left-hand side based off of your location. So if I were right here or at the end of this cul-de-sac, and that was the location where I was at, and that's my blue dot that's showing up right here, the homes would be listed in the area of the homes right around where I am located, right in here. So you have a couple of ways of being able to show a home, and that is, again, on the left-hand side screen here. You can tap on any one of those homeowners' names. So I'm going to tap on David Siegel's name. As I tap on David Siegel's name, it comes up with his specific detailed information. So I can see the property details, any history that's been done, anything to that point. So one of the things that we also wanted to show you this morning is how to be able to edit a homeowner. A lot of times the home may have changed and the information from the homeowner has not been recorded to a public source where we're able to access the new homeowner's name. And so you can tap on these three, again, the more button area here, and you can tap on that and you have the availability of two options. One, either being able to do an individual pre-screen on just that home. We suggest not doing that unless you're in more of a call center type of an atmosphere, or if the batch pre-screen for an entire territory that's about 250 homes is the best way to do pre-screens rather than individual pre-screens. But you have the availability of tapping on edit right here. So when I tap on edit, it gives me the availability of, and the edit property details come up. So right here, I could change the homeowner's name. So if I tap on the area where it says David, I could type in John, and in the last name where it says Siegel, I could put in Smith. This is John Smith. The address is correct. You have the availability if the homeowner's address was different than what is listed, like it's not really 8830, it's actually 8835 or whatever the home address could be that could be different, that you'd be able to change that there also. You can put in a primary phone number for the individual if you want to, because this one didn't have one listed, and if they did, and it's a different homeowner, you'd want to update that information anyway. And then you can also put in an email address right here to be able to have that email address be connected to that current property owner. So I'm not going to save this because this person probably still lives here, so I'm going to just tap on cancel and we're done with this homeowner. But that's the way that you're able to change a homeowner's name so that it shows up as the current homeowner rather than a previous one that hasn't been recorded. So now I'm just going to tap on this back arrow button right here. And again, it's taking me back out to the territory itself. If I zoom back out so we can see the entire territory, you're going to see that not all of the homes have been loaded, where you can see these areas right here that are all gray and down here where it's all gray. All you need to do to be able to load those homes is zoom in on those specific areas and it will load those homes. The availability of being able to zoom in to load the homes lets you focus specifically where you want to be to have the homes loaded, and it doesn't try to load, the app doesn't try to load all of the homes all at the same time. Doing that uses quite a bit of memory, and it also slows down the response time of the app. And so we're trying to prevent that. So again, if you're wanting to load the entire area, you can do what I'm doing, which is just sliding up with my fingers on the map portion, and it just loads those homes as I slide that up. So now if I were to zoom back out, we're going to see that most all of the homes have been loaded. So that's just one way to be able to do it. If I want to be able to change a disposition on a home, again, I can do it from the map itself right here, or I can do it from the homeowner information here on the left-hand side of the screen. Say I want to go to Charles Bussell. I'm going to tap on his information, and I want to be able to change the information. I have two ways of being able to do that right here. I can tap on the circle, and when I tap on that, I have the availability of saying it's not sold. And tapping on not sold gives me a drop down of a variety of reasons why this homeowner would not want to purchase a solar system. And so you can just tap on any one of those, whether they have a competitor's product, or if they're just not interested right now, or if they weren't eligible for whatever reason that it is. And scrolling down gives you a couple more options. So I could tap on those and have it be not sold, or obviously white stays as not contacted. Or I could say they're not home, so I can easily go back to that area later, and if I tap on not home, it's going to show up blue both on the map itself and on the individual homeowner's information. That allows me to know if I want to be able to go back later. I can see down any given street which homes I need to go back through again because they weren't home when I contacted those areas previously. So this is an area obviously that hasn't had any homes dispositioned yet. You should be able to see all of the colors. They should show up based off of the different ways that however you disposition those homes. And again, tapping on this blue dot here, I can now change it to say I want to call them back. So if I put call back, it will change the color of what that how that shows up, so that I know now that I'm able to call that person back rather than just they weren't home. That means I actually contacted them. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the homeowner information is the pencil tool, which allows you to be able to do notes. And this gives you the availability of being able to enter in callback information. So Brett went over the information on how to be able to do this last week, but just to briefly go over the information, it comes up with creating an event. It also has right here the callback information. I also have the availability of tapping right there, and it will give me the drop down, just like I saw on the circles, of how I want to be able to disposition this homeowner information. But right now I want to leave it on callback. And I'm going to add what I want to add as a title. And I can either type it in or using my microphone. And going to enable my dictation. Hello, check back. I'm going to say done, and it put in exactly what it thought I said. So you have the availability of saying check back with the person, whatever your system is that you have set up on it, being able to get back with the homeowners to be able to follow up with them. You'd want to put that in there. And then you can type something into the notes, or again, use your microphone to be able to put the information in the notes. So I'm done with that. And now I have the availability of checking what kind of history I have done on this home right here. By tapping on that history, it shows everything that I just did with that homeowner. It started out with, at 10:18, it showed that they were not home. At 10:19, I created a callback. And at 10:20, I actually dictated some information and set up some specific details to that callback. So if you're ever looking and wanting to find out uh, what you're able to do with that specific homeowner, that's your place to look. But again, it only works if you actually have logged something in there. If you never change the disposition, it will stay as white. And if you change it to a callback or not home, it's going to continue that history throughout right here. One of the things that I wanted to do is I'm going to go back out to this area right here and back out to the territory itself. Sometimes we have individuals who they decide at some point in time that they want to expand their territory. And so I would have the availability because, again, Phoenix is within the Phoenix, this Phoenix territory is within the Phoenix suborg. And going back one level out is the state of Arizona. So now I have Arizona, again, my suborg being Phoenix. The one thing to just be aware of and be sure of when you're trying to set up your organizations and territories is that a territory or a sub-organization needs to fit within the shape. So for instance, this shape right here is the entire state of Arizona. That's what that entire shape is. So any suborg needs to only be within the parameters of that state itself. So for instance, this suborg of Phoenix, when I tap on that, it's within that parameters. If I were to zoom out, I would see, yep, I have my suborg of Phoenix within the shape here of the parent organization, which is the state of Arizona. And when I go to the territory right here and I tap on that, again, I'm going to zoom back out. I can see there's my homes right there. You can see the one that's the circle of a home right here. It's within that area. Some people get confused and they think, oh, this is great. I have this territory right here. This is the shape of it. I want to actually increase the shape of that territory. You can do so at this point in time by tapping on the More button at the top here and editing and defining your boundaries. Now, if I define my boundaries, I can add just by tapping in the area, or again, by tapping on the plus sign and selecting, I can add more specific areas to this shape that I have. Now, the one thing that just to recall is that if you have already pre-screened this territory, you would not want to add to it later. Adding to it later will not allow you to pre-screen the new area. Say I added this area right here, and I added the one next to it right here just by tapping on it. Now I have added those two shapes. As you notice down here, it has now changed the number of homes that I have right here. If I had already pre-screened this area, the original territory that I had, and now I've added these two areas right here, if I tap on pre-screen, it will pre-screen the entire area that is part of that territory. So you want to make sure that if you want to pre-screen a specific area, that you're going to do that you would actually want to create a new territory to be able to pre-screen a new area. So rather than adding to an existing area, I would create just a new territory. So I'm going to take those back out just by tapping on those areas, and now I'm back to where I was at, or I could also just tap on cancel down here in the left-hand point, and now I'm back to my same shape of area. Again, I don't have any pre-screened right here. If I were to pre-screen those homes, you would want to tap on the pre-screen at the bottom of this and follow the process there. The one thing that just to be aware of, we are having a different number of homes show up on the server side on our end than is showing up on that you have available and that shows up as available amount of homes. For instance, we'll tap on pre-screen here, and it's showing me that I have 267 homes. I do not have any credits available for myself, and so if I were to try to process this, I could tap on here. I agree to the terms, and I would tap on pre-screen down here. It's not going to give me the information that I want. It's not going to run into pre-screens. I didn't have any credits available. So it's going to give me this error that says batch pre-screen failed. Please try again. One of the challenges that we have right now, and they are working on a fix for that, is say right here it said that I had 300 credits available. And if I had 300 credits, and I'm seeing right here that there's 267 homes in this territory, I should have enough credits available to be able to run this pre-screen. At the current time, there are some areas that are showing up as more homes on the server side than it shows up here within the app. And so you may get that previous error message that's not allowing you to pre-screen that territory because it's showing up as more. The engineers are working right now to be able to have those be the same so that you're going to see the correct number of homes that would actually be pre-screened. And again, you need to have as many credits available as you have the number of homes here, but you will only be charged the number of credits for the amount that actually pass the pre-screen. So just a reminder, in order to be able to get outside of this screen, you're just going to tap outside somewhere out here to be able to have that screen disappear. But that's one of the key things that's working right now, being able to do that. And again, you have the availability of doing the individual pre-screen by tapping on the button up here when you're on an individual homeowner. Now, right now, I could edit, I could create a new territory, I could delete the territory. And again, deleting the territory is just the same as deleting an organization. Anyone who's assigned to that territory or any work that has been done, it will disappear and has to be restored in order to be able to bring it back. But I could create another territory right here if I chose to do so. You have the different options up here that you can get to at any point in time throughout the app. If you wanted to go to your people icon at the top, just by tapping on it, it would show all of the sales reps that are available. And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't necessarily wait for, this doesn't have any sales reps attached to it because at this point in time, this is in a test area, but you can see right up here, there's a gear that is spinning. It sometimes disappears and doesn't show up. And there it is, it's still spinning, which says it's still searching for all of the sales reps that are available to be able to put in that area. And then you have the availability of being able to go to your invitations and send a new invitation from this point right here. And it will preload the amount of organizations that you have assigned to you. So I would put in right here an individual's name, so I have an email right there. And as you can see, the gear is still spinning right here, which says it's loading. And once it finishes loading, you'll be able to choose which organization you want them to go to. So it stopped loading, so there's all of the different organizations that I could choose to have them go to. And those will be available based on which organizations you have authorization or the rights to be able to assign someone to. So these are all the different organizations that we could assign someone to. So I could assign someone to the Utah organization and then choosing their role. If I tap on role, I have the availability of assigning them as an owner. And again, an owner has the top level of rights, as a manager, or as a member. A member has the least amount of rights, but they have the availability to be able to create proposals and have the client sign contracts. So if I wanted to just assign someone to be a member, I would tap on member, And there's the information. Now I have that all entered in as to what organization I want them assigned to, what member, what role I want them to be able to go with. And one thing just to be aware of, the email address that you use right here, right now we don't have the availability within the app to be able to assign or have someone be able to change their email address. This email address that shows right here is their username. So it needs to be an email that is where they would be getting information regarding the app. So when we do any updates or anything like that, they will get an email. And so they need to have that be connected to the same email that they want to use. It's also the email address that shows up on a contract when someone specifically has created a proposal to put solar panels on a roof. They would also have that same email address show up on the contract that the client or the customer will then have a copy of. So generally this should be a business email address rather than a personal email address. If you happen to have users who, for some reason, it was set up originally with a personal email address and it needs to be changed to a business email address, please just contact us at customer support. And the email is just support@datareef.com. And if you contact us there, we can just give us the email of what their current username is and what you'd like to have it changed to. That gives us the availability of being able to change their email address within the app. And so it shows up as their professional email rather than a personal email address. But right now I want to be able to add this. So I'm going to tap on send down at the very bottom. And it said that it was successfully sent. So right now you will see at the very top right here, it just showed me that this person, this email address that I just pushed, is pending. They have not accepted it yet. When you're creating an organization or a territory and you are wanting to, I'm going to go back to the map here, and if I wanted to add Beth, that's another email that I have, that's my personal email address. If I wanted to add that user, and the user had not accepted the invitation yet, it would not show up. As soon as that user accepts the invitation, it will show up in the availability of being able to add. So if I edited this area right here, this is not the correct area, but if I wanted to add members right here, the only way that I would be able to see members to be able to add to that territory is if they had already accepted the invitation. So they receive an email when they get sent an invitation, and they just need to follow the instructions on being able to do that, and it will go through and they'll be able to now have access to that area. One of the other things as far as sending invitations to new users, iOS has changed the way that they have done a few of how they've been able to, they have changed the way that you're able to access the app once it's been loaded. And so we are currently in the process of being able to make that accepting a new invitation a better user experience. It currently automatically launches the app. So when they receive an invitation and they go into their email and they accept that invitation, the app itself will it will launch the app itself. As you recall, if the app is not on the person's and it's not been submitted as a trusted or developer, it will not launch. So what it looks like is it's trying to launch the program, but it hasn't been trusted, so you run into some challenges there. So for the time being, you'll want to, if you're inviting new users who've never used the app before, you'll just want to give them the instruction that they'll want to tap and load the app. And once they load the app, they'll want to come back out here to their settings. Again, we are changing the app so that they won't have an issue with this in the future, but that will come out probably with the next release, and it's not available currently. But they'll want to go to their settings. So again, once the Legion app has loaded itself, before they accept the invitation, they'll want to go to the settings, and they'll tap on their settings. And generally when you tap on settings, it's going to come up to the general area, but if it doesn't, that's where they need to go, is to general. And then you're just going to scroll until you get to the device management. Now, depending on the different release version, whatever version it is that you're using, so I am using the most current version of iOS. If you're using a previous one, it may say something different, but if you're using the current one, it will say device management. If you're using one of the previous versions, it will say profiles. So you just tap on that area right there, and once you get here, it'll say untrusted developer, and you'll be able to go it or tap on it and be able to trust the developer right there. Right now, I have the availability at this point in time of deleting the app if I wanted to, but I have trusted them as a trusted developer, and so it's been verified so that I've given authorization to be able to use that app within the device itself. So now that I have that information and I have it loaded, so again, in their email that they would have accepted that or have downloaded that Legion app, then they need to go to settings to trust the developer, and then they go back to their email and they will tap on accept invitation, and then they'll be able to open up the app and it'll work for them just fine. So are there any questions at all on anything that I've discussed thus far? Okay, we'll go ahead and go on. One of the other things that we get questions on periodically is one of the best ways to view a territory is, I'm going to cancel back out of that. Best ways to view this territory is with the street view. And up here you can see that we are now currently on the street view. If I were to tap on that, I have the availability of going to the satellite view or being able to go to the hybrid view. And so the hybrid view, sometimes people are zoomed in very close. If I were to zoom in, you're going to see this grid. And that just means that the maps themselves are loaded and recorded on the program itself at different levels. And so this one is zoomed in too far so that the homes do not actually show up. You wouldn't see that if you're on the street level, but when you go to the hybrid level to see the rooftops of the homes and the trees and those kinds of things that you're looking for, you're in too close. All you need to do is just zoom out a little bit and you're able to see the individual homes again. So there are other times where you may actually see something that shows up very weird. So like here, I'm able to zoom in and I can see that. It's easy to check and see if I have just zoomed in too far by zooming out a little ways, and then my homes show up just like they normally should. Periodically, you may see this grid line that's at any level, and the Apple Map feature, which is the feature that is used by on iPads, periodically the mapping program itself is not working, and that's not something that we have any control over. It is something that comes from Apple, and so periodically you may think, oh, well, the app's not working correctly because I'm not able to see the map. If it's not just that you're zoomed in too far and it is showing up in different areas of the app, it doesn't happen very often, but periodically it does show up where you'll see that grid or you'll see a totally dark screen. That is a map challenge, and it's an issue with Apple, and it usually is fixed very quickly, but it does show up periodically. It's just to be aware of that. One of the things that you can also do from this territory point of view is you can check on stats right here. I'm going to look at my stats, and I'm going to be able to see that I have 2 doors that were knocked, 2 appointments were set. Now, I just barely did those while I was demonstrating this today, and so I could actually, it would show that I tapped on, or that I knocked on 2 different doors because I dispositioned that homeowner 2 different times, and that I set 2 different appointments because I went in to do it. So that's one of the things just to be aware of, is that if you're only going to want to disposition that home just the one time, rather than going back and forth as I did, because I only knocked on that door once. And so now it's showing up that I knocked there twice. And if they weren't home, which was the first one, that's what was dispositioned. And I went back and said, okay, now I have gone back to that homeowner and I've been able to disposition it and set an appointment with them. I did actually knock that door twice. So just be aware they'll all show up in there. I haven't done any proposals today, and you have the availability with a drop down right here of seeing the history. I tap on that. I have the availability of going to this week, this month, or this year, and being able to see the different time frames as to what history has been done within this territory. If I scroll down, I'm going to keep it on today. And if I scroll down, it's also going to be one more place to show me how many homes are in that property and how many have been completed. Right now, it shows that 0 out of 267 homes have been completed, and it shows that there aren't any pre-screens that have been done on this area. If the area, this territory had been, I'd done pre-screen passes on it, it would show me how many actually passed those pre-screens. So it would give me a number like 150 out of the 267 had passed pre-screens. The one thing you also want to remember within this information itself is that once you've done a pre-screen, you only have 30 days to be able to get all of those doors knocked. That's the reason why you want to have your territory small enough when you do a pre-screen batch to be able to make sure that you can actually get through and contact all of those homes within that 30-day time period. You would have down underneath the name of the territory itself, right below it would show a time clock that would be counting down as to how many days you have left on that territory where the pre-screens are still available. So just be aware that that is something that would show up for you there. So if I come back out to my main area, I'm going to see it's going to show I don't have any sub-orgs within this Phoenix area, that I don't have any members assigned, but if it did, you would see a variety of different numbers that would show up there. And if I had any sales, they would be totaled right there also. So you're able to pull up the stats based on the organization or clear down to the level of the individual territory within itself. So if I had multiple sub-organizations here and multiple territories, the stats here would show up as the total for all of those sub-organizations and territories. If I'm down to the individual territory level, the stats right here are only going to show specific to that one territory. The KPIs, your key performance indexes right here, are something that we have set up, and we still have we're still seeing periodically a few issues. So if your KPIs do not match what you should have been doing or what you have done, you're going to want to shake your iPad. Just by shaking your iPad, as soon as you do that, you have the availability of reporting a bug, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now, because we still periodically think people will think that they have actually reported a bug. But if I tap on report a bug, it's going to give me the availability of drawing on the screen to be able to add some text. So I can tap on my paintbrush right down here and change the color if I choose to. Say I want to have it be blue. And this is nice if you're actually wanting to do a variety of different things. But now I have the availability of typing or putting in a blue arrow right there. And say I wanted to have something else and I wanted it to be in green, gives you the availability of saying, hey, I did this, and then I did this, and you have the availability of adding some different features to your bug report. Then when I tap on the letter at the bottom, it gave me the availability to be able to type in my information. Now it's going to pre-populate my email address that is my username. If I want it to go to a different email address, I would be able to edit that just by tapping in that area right there to change the email address that I want the information to be sent to. Generally, I would suggest leaving the email address being in there as what your username is, because that is one of the ways that we actually look up and try to find more detail on the users, so we can find out specifically what territory you're in or what territory you're assigned to. And again, if you put in a different email address there, we're not able to do as much research on that. But here I could enter in my feedback. The red arrow is the wrong house. The green arrow is the correct address. And you don't need to submit information when the homeowner is different than what has been put on there. You can just go ahead and edit that individual homeowner information, but that was just an example of that. This is the last step of reporting a bug that people tend to forget to do. And if you decide you don't want to send it, you can tap on cancel up here in the upper left. But in order to be able to submit the bug, you would need to be able to tap on send. So say I think I wanted to end, I could actually draw words on there if I want to. It is a little bit more difficult to be able to read those words, so I would suggest using the tool with the typewriter down on the bottom, and I can add more. So once I do that, and I've got everything completed that I wanted to put in there, again, you could use your microphone if you have that version of an iPad, but I'm going to want to make sure I tap on the send at the upper right-hand corner. When I tap on that, it says, okay, that's your confirmation that your bug has been sent. So now I'm back to being able to use my app. So again, if you're seeing these information, your key performance index right here that is showing up to be different than what it should be. So say you knocked 20 homes today and it only showed 4 homes, and you can see that they're dispositioned, but it's not showing up accurately here. Please submit a bug report. Like I say, the key performance indexes are showing up accurately for the most part, but periodically there may be something that may not show up the way that it's supposed to, and you submitting a bug report will make us aware of that so that we can get that changed. All right. One of the other things that I just wanted to mention briefly is, depending on the version or the type of an iPad that you're using, the minimum requirements is that you have a 8.0 operating system on iOS, but we have seen a couple of errors that have come in recently that something just isn't, the app is just not functioning the way that it's supposed to, and as soon as the individual updated the version of iOS, it solved the problem. So it is a good suggestion to keep updated with the new iOS versions as they come out, and so that you're able to make sure that the app itself works the way that it's supposed to. Some of the older devices, the older iPads, do not have as much of a memory, and so there's some issues where they may not be able to load as all of the information. These maps themselves, so right now we're still in the hybrid view, and that view takes more memory for your device. So if you're on an older iPad, you're going to probably want to stay more into the street view because it uses less memory when it loads the different homes. So you're going to want to stay in the street view for that until you get to the individual home where you're trying to draw the solar panels on the roof to be able to see that. You can switch back and forth, but just be aware that hybrid will take more memory for your iPad than the street level will. There is also the availability if you're going through to create a proposal, as Brett demonstrated in the last training. By the way, I also just want to mention that the training today will be available. We'll send out an email with a link to it. But the training for last week was an excellent training that Brett was able to do from beginning to end on creating a proposal. He went through pre-screens and a variety of other basic techniques and how to be able to use the app. But this training will be available on the web also. But you have the availability of being able to create a proposal. And once you create a proposal, he spoke briefly about being able to use the camera to take a picture of the individual's bill. So when you ask them for a utility bill and you go in and you're wanting to take a picture of that, one thing that you need to realize is that taking a picture uses a lot of the RAM memory of the device itself. So if you have an older version or an older device, an older iPad, you may not be able to, if the app crashes on you, it's usually a memory issue when you're trying to take a picture, because taking a picture is using quite a bit of memory, especially when you've already had all of these homes being loaded, especially again one more time if you're in the hybrid rather than the street view. So there are some ways to be able to conserve on your energy if you are using an older iPad, just to be aware of that. We do get information when your iPads crash or when the app crashes on your iPad. And there are a couple of different, what that does when it crashes, it actually resets your RAM memory. And so you have the availability of it starts you over again. And we tried to prevent as many crashes as possible, but you'll need to load the app one more time. So if it would crash, it just is going to bring you back to your home screen right like this, and you're just going to tap on your app and it will reload your app. It will take you back to if it has crashed, it will take you back to the home screen. So you would come back to your base home, whatever organization that you show up as. So you have the availability of being able to see that right there and just go back to that area. One thing just to be aware of when you report a bug, it sends us a screenshot of exactly what you're seeing at that point in time. And so we have the availability of seeing the step-by-step processes that you went through to be able to get to that point. So it gives us, again, those step-by-step processes. It gives us what's showing on the screen. And so that gives us the best way of being able to know how to be able to figure out what happened and figure out if it's something that is a training issue or if there is a challenge with the app in performing the way that it's supposed to. So just be aware that that's the best way to be able to report a bug. Periodically we will see individuals who will send a screenshot. They'll do a screenshot themselves and then they'll send an email in. But the best way to be able to do it is to report a bug, because it sends all of the information to a group of individuals to be able to take a look and see what the challenge is. One of the things that you want to be aware of, and there's a few quick ways to be able to troubleshoot your own situations of what's going on and you're seeing something that isn't working the way that it's supposed to, is what you'll want to do is just to pull down in this area right here, and that refreshes the information. So as you can see right now, I've got a gear spinning right here and another one right up at the top, and it lets me know that it's working on being able to refresh that information. So if you make a change in a sub-organization or a territory, just be aware also that that information is recorded on the server side and it's refreshed every 5 minutes. So if you've made a change and you're next to another user who isn't seeing that change, you'll want to wait about 5 minutes. If it hasn't been gone through by then it may be an intermittent internet connectivity challenge or something to that effect. But just be aware that it could take 5 minutes for it to show up on another user's iPad. And they may need to, again, pull down and refresh the information just like I just did right here to be able to have it show up on their device. So you have the availability of refreshing from there. If I'm on the people and I'm wanting to go look at the different sales reps, I would just be able to, if I pull down slightly, I could right here search on an individual's name. They made a change with the last release, which made this search option a lot easier. If you don't have a lot of users in there, it wasn't ever that much of an issue, and you may not have even realized there was one. But they all load now, so that you have the availability of being able to find a user a lot easier. So, for instance, I'm going to put in my last name of Wilding, and all of the Wildings will show up that are there. Or I could put in the first name of Beth, and all of the different Beths will show up there. So you have the availability of being able to do searches, and they load very quickly. Once you have that individual's name in there, it's going to show that individual's username, and it will also show their phone number. That's only if they entered their phone number when they logged in the first time, and we strongly encourage you to do that. It gives us the availability when you send in a bug report to be able to call you directly if we need to do any additional training or any clarification on anything that needs to be done. Now, if I had some different territories that were assigned to me as a member, the shapes of those territories would show up right here underneath assignments. And so I would be able to, as an owner, you could tap on any one of those assignments down here, and it would take you directly to that territory that user was assigned to. So you have the availability of being able to look right there. Going on the stats of myself individually, it would show up today. I have knocked 3 doors, I've set 2 appointments, no proposals, and nothing has been sold. It also tells me the information of what my root organization is. And so I have 2, one for Data Reef and one for Sun Edison. And how many active territories do I have? And what my token balance is. So this is a good place to be able to look and see if someone was set up in the correct organization, or if you need to invite them to a different organization just by tapping on the people and searching on them and being able to find that information. When I go to activity, it's going to show all of the individual different areas that I've gone and I have dispositioned homes. So it shows that these are the 2 that I did today that I said were both callback. This is the same home. Again, the address is listed. It shows the time and the date as to when I dispositioned that homeowner as not home. Here's another one that shows up as proposal. If I wanted to tap on the one for not home right here, it's just going to highlight it. So we're not specifically in the territory itself. We're just under the people tab right here. If we were in the territory, it would bring to that homeowner information, the specific homeowner information. But again, remember, homeowner information is only loaded inside of territories. So you would need to be inside of a territory in order for that information to be loaded. You also have the search tab right over, or the magnifying glass, which allows you to search right over here. And so you're able to search on different homes, if addresses right at this point in time, if you would like. The one thing that you just need to be aware of is that you need to have both the street address and the state. You can also use zip code, but the street address and state will pull up a specific home if you're doing it as a search from right there. So you're trying to figure out exactly where it's at. If you do a search from for instance, I'm not inside of a organization right now. I just tapped on the magnifying glass, the search tool. And so it will bring up the home. It will bring up the pinpoint to where that home is located at, but it won't give me any of the homeowner details because I'm not specifically in a territory where it would load from. So just so you're aware of that. All right. So we have a variety of things that are being able to be shown up. Do you have any issues? Those were the areas that I was planning on covering today. Do you have any questions at all that you're wanting to have covered that we didn't cover? And also, if you think of one later, you can easily submit it to support@datareef.com. and we'll work on getting that in the next training webinar or be able to respond back more quickly by email or by phone. But are there any questions right now that anyone has on things that have been covered today or any areas that weren't covered?
Oh, really good training. Thank you.
All right. Well, if you do come up with any specific questions that you do have, like I say, we'll be holding these trainings weekly, and we'd love to be able to do training specifically on what you're looking to have that you'd like to get more information on. And so just shoot us an email to send us that information you'd like to be trained on. We'll also be going over any new releases and how to be able to use specific tools, whereas you may have been using a workaround and the new release has fixed something that you no longer need to use that workaround. We'll be going over those in these training webinars also. So appreciate you all coming on board today, and we look forward to being able to do another training webinar next Tuesday at the same time from 10 until 11 on Mountain Time. Thank you for attending.